This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. I'm very excited to be speaking to Carl Clemons-Hopkins about hacks. How are you, Carl?
I'm good, Abe. How are you?
Good, good. We had the chance to see each other in person recently and just
Yeah,
reflect on how long it's been since the show was on the air. What are you feeling like right now as the show is about to premiere?
I'm really really excited. It's like being backstage at a recital and everybody's out there. It's really I'm so happy that people are going to get to see it. I'm so happy that people still want to see it. You know, that's kind of a thing when you have so much of a hiatus. You wonder, is the audience still there? Are they still interested? And the feedback we've been receiving in advance of this has been nothing short of wonderful. So I'm excited that people are going to get to see it.
Before we get into some spoilers, what can you
Mhm.
preview for those who don't want to know too much about what to expect from Marcus in season three?
Okay, so what I can preview is where we're a year later in season three, and Marcus has been honestly doing what he said he'd do at the end of season two. You know, he's been uh, focusing on himself. He's been getting a lot more work-life balance. He's been going to therapy. He's been, and in top of season three, in the Advent of Deborah special, he's been doing his job really, really, really well. You know, the brand has been growing, the business has been growing, and what we get to find from him is, sometimes when you start a journey of trying to improve in this journey to self, you're going to be tested. And those tests come in the form of uh, new people on the plane and new focuses from Deborah and him having to really decide what it is he wants and what patterns of behavior does he actually want to stop? What patterns of behavior does he want to continue? And what that's going to end up costing him.
I think one of the things about anybody in Deborah's orbit is that she really does value people, but the people she
Mhm.
values most, she doesn't tend to really show it, which makes them
Yes.
doubt whether they should stick around, even though they're clearly providing a strong service.
Oh, very much, very much. It's not a system based on rewards. You know, it's not going to be a good job. I really see what you're doing. You know, and that's how she treats everyone. You especially see that with her treatment with Ava, and you see that from first episode. So that's definitely Deborah's world.
What characteristics do you think that you share with Marcus?
Ugh. I think we're both very hardworking. I think we're both very focused. Well, I'm focused when I really need to be. Marcus, I think, is focused regardless. Um, and I think we both have found healing and comfort in comedy in the sense of, something we get to delve into this season is exactly what was happening in Marcus's life when he came across Deborah Vance, if you will. Um, and there's definitely certain people and humors and things that I really cherish and hold dear in my life because of what was going on when they came in. Outside of that, we are very, very different people. Uh, something that fascinated me about Marcus at the beginning, um, and something that I hope audiences really recognize is the fact that the Deborah Vance we meet in season one is the best Deborah Vance we could have met. And then Ava enters her life and she's learning more and growing. But as we find out in this season, there's a lot of material, there's a lot of qualities of her from the past, mostly before Marcus, but for most of her life, where she's not necessarily been on the cutting edge of progress. She's not necessarily been the most socially aware or kind person. And this is the person that Marcus has had to work with for most of his adult life. And so Marcus has done a lot of going along to get along, a lot of suppression, a lot of keeping his thoughts and feelings to himself, um, which happens a lot, I believe, when you are the only person in a situation. If you're the only person of color, if you're the only queer individual, if you're the only, for many people, if you're the only woman in the environment, you kind of have two choices. You're either going to stand up, speak out, go against it, or you're going to, sweep it under the rug, keep it to yourself, push it down, what have you. And that's something that Marcus has done for a lot of his life. And that's something that in this season we see start to explode a bit. which I'm really excited about for people to see that. Not he's not burning the house down or anything. However, he is. There's an amount that he's not taking anymore, and I'm really excited. I was excited to get to explore that, and I'm excited for people to see it.
We'll issue a slight spoiler warning here before we get deeper into other stuff, but I do feel that Marcus, his journey this season feels not isolated, but it feels like you're really not interacting with other characters very much, aside maybe from Deborah and a few, Damien, a few others. But
Mhm.
whereas a lot of the other members of the ensemble do interact with other people, this feels like a particularly solitary journey. Is that how you saw it also?
I saw it as that, but and I also saw it as a necessary solitary journey. It also just on a story perspective, we get to introduce a number of newer recurring characters this season, and we get to really delve into other ensemble members' lives and connections with Deborah, which I think is done in a really beautiful way and it helps round out the world. But to what you said, it really is kind of he's kind of on his own a lot of this season, and a lot of that is because Deborah's focus is now more industry. The industry that kind of kicked her out is now embracing her with open arms, and this is the industry that Marcus and her started to work against. The brand, the QVC. She was known as the QVC lady for most of the people. That's how Ava knows who she is in season one. Um, and because Marcus's business is necessarily entertainment industry oriented, it affords him the opportunity to be on this sort of isolating journey, but also the perspective to see what he actually wants. He's not a creative. He's not in the entertainment industry. So he really gets to see what that's like and make some decisions for himself.
Here's what we want to make sure that everybody's seen the whole season before you keep watching here, just so we don't ruin
Yeah.
anything.
I'm trying to be as vague but specific as possible.
No, this is good. This is the deep dive we want. So
Yeah.
what in terms of, the moment that Marcus actually sort of snaps, I think is interesting because Jimmy is not someone who's really been an adversary. There are plenty of people who are sort of not good to Marcus, and Jimmy isn't really one of those people. I don't think that's not how I've seen it.
Sure.
It seems it's sort of like a byproduct of the situation, just that there are, too many things happening at once, scheduling error, other things that happen. What was your reaction when you first, saw that material in the script, and how do you think that impacts the journey going forward?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved everything about it. And one thing I loved about it most is if for some reason you are paying tight attention to Marcus, it starts brewing from episode one, and especially from episode two. You see that he is, very focused, very uh, meeting the moment, riding the wave. There's new offices, there's all these new employees, there's everything is grown, and he is staying with it and trying to keep it growing. And Deborah is continually becoming distracted, and there's now more people on the plane. And now there's Jimmy and whatever Jimmy's assistant is doing. And there's all these things, this little bit by bit by bit by bit, kind of winding him up tighter and tighter and tighter. And then to find that the brass ring that Deborah's been focusing on, has the potential of upending all of that, you know, kind of like life. There goes the therapy, there goes the boundaries, there goes the promises you made to yourself, there goes the um, somewhat easier time or balanced time that he was having. And those actions then have their own repercussions. So I think it's really beautiful. And I hope that it's encouraging to people, especially people who are workaholism and work life imbalance is a huge thing in our society. And my hope is that this shows somewhat of a modern parable of what happens what happens when you decide to remedy that. There's going to be tests, there's going to be challenges that you need to overcome, but also what happens when you give so much of your power to someone else. The fact that she, and by proxy Jimmy, has the ability to change the direction of one episode his entire day, but also the direction of his, not the direction, but change the commitment he has to his boundaries, commitment he has to himself. The fact that someone outside of himself has that much power, I think, is not the best of things. And so I hope people can learn from him and see, you know, how important it is to hold to oneself, hold to yourself in babbling, but basically hold to what you promised yourself that you were going to do, hold to the boundaries that you put in place. Um, I think that comes across really clearly in the episodes.
I'm hoping by the time this interview airs, we'll have news on a season four. I
Yes.
can't imagine how we wouldn't,
Oh,
because it certainly
Jesus.
needs to happen. What would you
Yes, it
like
does.
to see for Marcus in season four? Hopefully, not knowing anything yet about what's in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
works.
I would love to see. I would love to. I mean, of course, I would love to see all his dreams come true. I have a lot of love for Marcus. I have a lot of respect for Marcus. I learn a lot from Marcus, and I really want him to step into that power. I really want him to. I would love for it to be connected to Deborah, but regardless, there is a very real arrested development I think he's had from being working with this woman since he was a technically a teenager, but a young adult. Um, Specifically working in her house, working at his whole world has been focused on this business, this person, this entity. And I would love to see him, I don't know, either take over Vegas or become a studio head or something. I would love to see him recognize that he is so brilliant and so capable and so able to do much more than this in the same way that Ava has been able to realize a bit more of her potential from season 2 into season 3. Jimmy has been able to realize more of his potential from leaving Latitude and taking on new clients or whatnot. I would love to see Marcus on that same trajectory so he can go as far as he can go.
Be great. Well, at Awards Buzz, we really like awards, and while we'd like to see
Okay.
hacks, celebrated with lots of awards, I'm always curious. What are you watching? What do you think is particularly deserving a person or a show of an
Oh
award?
goodness. I'm I'm watching Harlem. I'm watching Gilded Age. I'm watching Girls Five Eva. I think it's one of the funniest things. And honestly, I'm as many of us I'm sure are really enjoying Abbott Elementary. Oh my goodness, and really enjoying really good comedies. It's I don't know if anyone needs to be reminded of this, but it's fucking terrible out here, and comedy is one of the few things that I think actually can heal. So I'm also enjoying older comedies. I still watch Living Single every other night. I still watch cartoons. So I'm really enjoying things that, and nothing against dramas. These dramas are great. They're wonderful. They're compelling. They're rich. Um, and I'm really looking at things that make me laugh.
While you're waiting for news of season four, what else are you working on? Do you have other roles coming up?
I have some projects that I'm writing and starting and producing, and that's all I can say because they're very tender and very new. But I'm excited to get my hands into uh, other areas in production. I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, I wish you plenty of luck. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thanks, I appreciate it.